welcome to Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy. So you're here, and this is, as you might have noticed, the program which is called Kingston CIPD Master's Program in collaboration with the Russian Presidential Academy. So, and you are here. While you are here, we promised you to have a test drive of our program. So, actually, you are here, and what surrounds you is the actual learning that was here during the 4 days. So our students have just finished their studies, and we have two of our professors here, Энn Bраun and Эндрю Кросси. So they are delivering a module which is called Employee Engagement and Organizational Learning to our second-year students. So what we're not going to do is, what we normally do is, I give you the presentation of the program and whatever. I'm not going to do this. If you have any questions about the program, please, these are our booklets, and here's the water, please help yourself. And if you have any questions about the program, I can take them in the end. So I would like to step in and give the word to Anne and Andy, and so you'll have a feel of a test drive. So for an hour or so, you would try and see how is it to be a student of Kingston University. What do we do? It's a bit different kind of education that we normally get used to in Russia, so we'll try and give you a taste. And what we invite, which role of yours we would like to invite, is try and taste, try and interact with us, because this is an interactive learning, and you are learning from each other, obviously learning from our honors professors, but from yourselves as well. So try and taste and enjoy this evening, and if you have any questions about employee engagement, please address them to Anne and Andy. Regarding the program, please address it to me after we end with what we planned for you.
Welcome everybody, thank you for coming and joining us this evening. As you've heard, what we intend to do is give you a genuine test drive of what you might expect if you joined us on the course. Our objective this evening, what would make us feel we've done a good job, is if we've helped you to understand who you will be studying with. Well, you're all together, so if you all joined the course, you would be studying together. Who'll be facilitating the learning? Well, we're examples of that. How we run the course sessions. Us standing here lecturing you, we would like to be a very, very small portion of the course. We'll use all sorts of tools and techniques that may be not conventional, and we'll give you a taste of that. Now, we've only got a short time, so we're obviously only able to give you a flavour, but we'll maybe do some activities and some things just to give you the idea of how it would work. We do like these sessions to be very interactive, and quite a lot of us have spoken already, and you don't seem shy or anything like that. So we'll tell you a bit more about us then.
Okay, so I'm an HR practitioner. We had the conversation with a couple of you that I'm somebody who's worked in HR or associated with HR for most of my working life. I'm currently the HR director for a global shipping firm. Last year I left KPMG. I was a partner at KPMG and the head of people for the UK practice at KPMG. My previous life has been in financial services, professional services. I worked at a bank for a while as HR director. I've also been a consultant. So some of the people on this programme will move their careers during the time that they're with us, and they may go from employment to consulting. So I know what consulting is like, and Andy will describe it as well in a minute. We try and give you tools and tips that you can take whether you're going into the world of work or whether you're going into your world of self-employed work as a consultant. So I understand the difference between being a consultant and being an employer, so a practitioner. When I'm not busy in my job, because I have a full-time job, I'm also on the board, and I'm the chair of the remuneration committee. So I work with the board of directors. I've worked with boards and executives. I've also advised the British government on youth education strategy. So I've got quite a wide range of experience. And the most exciting thing for me is sharing that experience with students, because we can learn from each other, and I think it's a very rewarding thing to do. I take annual leave to be here, so I come here having taken my holiday because I want to share the HR experience that I've had, which is a fantastic experience, and share it with a wider group of people. So I have an interest in diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
And BAME is, well, test me later on what it all stands for, but it is about an inclusive workforce where you have people from different cultures and backgrounds and building inclusivity. So we talk about diversity, but actually inclusivity is more than diversity. And so that's what BAME is.
So, myself then, Andy Crossi, 35 years as an HR practitioner, which is pretty scary, I think. During the class this afternoon, I was telling the students about my first job in personnel, which was simply putting data into a database. So, it's come a long way since then. Until about 3 years ago, I was Global Head of Learning for the Capgemini Group. And prior to that, Global Talent Director for the Capgemini Group. And if you don't know that group, it's around about 180,000 people spread across 42 countries. So for many years, I was spending most of my life travelling to all these far-off places, which is very exciting. But after 5 years, you think maybe enough travel for a little while. So I've retired now from full-time corporate life, and I operate as a freelance consultant. And at the moment, my consulting work, I'm doing some activities with the National Health Service in the UK, which is the body that runs our hospitals, and I'm working on their performance management programme. I'm also working at an organisation called Innovate Awarding UK, and Innovate is all about apprenticeships and government-sponsored training programmes for young people who come into business, perhaps at a lower level. So it's a supplement for many companies for their degree programmes. British Safety Council is a charity that promotes well-being and safety in work throughout the UK, and one of the things I've been doing with them is planning whether we can make an approach into India, where there's a strong appetite for health and safety. Current lecturing roles, well, in Moscow, which I hugely enjoy. I've cut out a lot of travel except Moscow, which we hugely enjoy, as we said. Also teach at Cranfield School of Management. My professional interests are wide and varied. In 35 years, I've done a lot of different HR jobs, but I've also been the head of HR consulting for the Capgemini Group. So I've led a team of 50 HR consultants, consulting on a huge variety of projects to our clients. So, like Anne, I've experienced being an employee, being an employer, being a consultant and leading a consulting team, and now the freelance as well. So quite a few bits and pieces in a varied background there.
Engagement. So engagement is one of the modules. It's taught with organisational learning and knowledge in the second year of this programme. Andy and I work on some parts of it. We deliver 6 lectures are delivered, we run 2 of them together. So you get 2 of us at some point pulling together some of the strands because they link. But in effect, employee engagement will help you think about how can an organisation with maybe 1,000 people be worth billions of dollars? How can an organisation with no assets and just people and capability be worth so much money? How can an organisation with no physical assets have a share price that rises and rises? What is it about that organisation and how they engage and treat their people that creates business success? In employee engagement, we look very much at that question and think about how can we build an engaging workforce, an engaging strategy that hits the bottom line. So that's employee engagement. How can we make an organisation more effective and more profitable through the way that we work with people in employee engagement? And then people are this very difficult thing because they keep moving, they keep changing, they turn up one day and they've had a great day, and the next day they turn up and they've not had a great day, and yet you still need to make them feel happy, enthused and motivated at work. Well, how do we do that? And when you start to think about, and we start to think about academically, but also from a practitioner point of view, about employees with a vast range of backgrounds, be it social backgrounds, be it racial, cultural backgrounds, age, then we start to think about multi-generational workforces. how do we build an engagement module, an engagement approach in the workplace that really engages such a diverse range of people to be their best at work. So that's what this module is really about. And then we look, because HR people, there is no value in us being soft and woolly, saying because it feels good, because it feels nice. We should do these things because they're good things to do. Actually, HR people are very often at the board or with the senior management team asking for budgets, asking for resources, pleading a business case. And when we do that, we need to be very business focused. So this module will talk to you very firmly about the business benefits and the impact to the bottom line, to the profitability of a business, of an engaged workforce. So we think very much about not just what we in HR and associated HR people would like to know about this from a conceptual point of view, but how do we build a robust business case to discuss with the CEO, the chairman, the CFO, when we're looking at how do we invest in our people. So it's very practical, and it will give you very real examples of how you can take that back to your organisation and use it as an investment place. And then how do you measure it? How do you measure the cheerful, the enthused, the engaged, the motivated? And people talk about, well, of course you do it through an employee survey. Well, do you? And there are some tricks and some applications of surveys that you really need to think about. And there are many other routes that you can follow as well. So during this module, we look at that sort of activity. We take a very expansive view of employee engagement.
It's worth emphasising that both with engagement and any other of the topics during the course, we look at them from an academic point of view, and then from the point of view perhaps of a consultant, and from a practitioner perspective. We are both practitioners with consulting experience. We would also look at the academic, but you'll see it from probably three, sometimes even more, different directions. We need to share. What these sessions are about is sharing. Obviously, we hope we've got some knowledge that's interesting from our experience, but there isn't a single session where we don't learn from you, and that gives us more knowledge to spread to other groups. So it's all about us learning from each other through sharing global practices. And then when we hear all of the different options that are available, we can decide which will work best in our own organisation. What we're very careful not to do is say, this is the best way of doing something. This is the best practice, because there's no such thing universally. What may be the best in one organisation may not be the best in another. So if we look at a variety of options, then you can think about which one is the best for you. We use case studies, we use various tools and techniques of engagement, we share our experience, we give you the opportunity to share as well. I thought what I'd do is just show you just a few photos that we've taken over the last few years of groups. And that would be a very typical scene of people working in small groups and drawing and writing on the flip charts and so on. As you can probably see, being an excellent artist and having fantastic handwriting is not what we need. I'm not an artist or have good handwriting. What we use all these flip charts for example, is to gather ideas, and sometimes they can look a mess, to be honest, but within that there's all sorts of keywords and so on that we can pick up on and learn from. This photo is a visit that the group on the Master's course is making to a company in London as part of the International Week, which is part of the course. During the week in London, we arrange visits to organisations, the CIPD and other corporates. And this is a visit to an organisation called Skanska, which is a very large-scale, heavy industry construction company. They build roads and large buildings. And they're making really good inroads into increasing the number of females working in that field, which might traditionally have been considered something that perhaps females wouldn't look at. And that's the wrong view, of course. And these people have actually got some fantastic programs. They've been monitored and broadcast by the BBC because of their diversity achievements. This is the group. This was back in October, so only a couple of months ago, so this was a first year group. This would have been their first module actually with us, and they're preparing a case study based on an organisation called Mineral Water, and they went to the trouble of creating the product for us as well, so that was creative and ingenious. This is a presentation about HR practices at Southwest Airlines, and much to our surprise and pleasure, they arrived dressed as the flight attendants from Southwest Airlines. So a lot of creativity and thought and great ideas come into the work we do. One of the role plays, very informal, but they're labelled so that we know who they are when they're taking part in that activity. And what a fine looking group, despite my disguise. That gives you a flavour of what it works like. I'm aware that we've already talked to you in a traditional lecturing way quite a lot already, so if we just look at a little bit of the academic perspective and then we'll have some activity.
So we're going to, if you were to join this programme, you would be learning about the academic base for some of the things that we do in HR, or we do about people. You don't have to be working in HR at the moment. Your understanding of people in an organisation can come from associated roles, but your interest in people has to be there to get the most out of this programme. And we'll talk about some of the theories, and we'll take three different perspectives. We'll take an academic perspective, so you have a foundation of knowledge which will help you have confidence in what you're doing when you're back in the workplace. We'll also take a consultant's perspective, because consultants like me and Andy, and certainly our last employers, would have wanted to sell to you. So that will be an organisational perspective, how we can sell to your organisations to help your organisations improve their profit through their people. And we'll take a practitioner view. But one of the things we talk about when we talk about the academics are not monetising, they're not trying to create, they're not selling their services, the academics. The academics are learning about things they think are interesting. And one of the academics, just to give you a taster, when we talk about employee engagement, is Khan. And Khan is we call him the grandfather of employee engagement, because he's the first person who started serious research to say there's something about when people go to work and they appear to be more engaged, they appear to like their work, that things has something to do with company profitability. Now, I don't know about that, but I'm going to do some research. So Khan was the first person who started that thinking, and that's relatively recently. It's in the 1990s. In 1990, in fact, he published his work. But that piece of work was new, and it started to look at the intrinsic motivators for being at work. Why do I come to work? What do I get out of work that actually makes me perform better at work? And then Khan is saying, that thing in here that I can see is being experienced, actually, I think that might be called employee engagement. Now that was a starting point for a genre of activity in HR called employee engagement. So it was a starting point. Very much about the intrinsic motivation to do your best at work or in your task. And that was Khan. So we spent quite a lot of time talking about Khan because he's very interesting. And when a piece of work academically starts, people then build on it. And so then we build on it too and take it in different directions. And we have quite a lot of fun doing that. You have to start with, where did this idea of employee engagement come from? So that's the starting point. And what Khan says is that employees will perform at their best at work, they'll be engaged, if they physically engage with their work. They're physically interested. The day goes by and they're, oh gosh, the day's gone by. They've been so active in the work that they're doing. They feel a sense of safety in their work. They can speak and be listened to. And their work has purpose. And that's what Khan talks about. And these are beginning to be the things that we see now in modern HR practice around how do you describe strategy in the workplace to engage your employees? How do you design a job to both describe a role and create stretch in a role? And how do you create a place in the workplace where employees are safe to speak, safe to talk about what their views are, safety, psychological safety? So these are the conditions that Kahn talks about, and says if you get those right, you will see something happen in the workplace. An employee might be more engaged. And so we spend time when we academically talk, we unpick the characteristics of engagement and we trace it back to the root place that that engagement was identified through psychology and through academic research. So we unravel the way people behave at work and we trace it back to an academic point. And Kahn is our starting point for that. And Kahn says, employees feel engaged when they know what their company or their organisation's expectations of them are, when they understand why they're there, they feel important in the workplace, they feel as though they have a role, it's meaningful in the workplace, they're offered development, be it training or stretch objectives or coaching, they're offered developments, they feel part of a group of their co-workers, they belong to a clan, they belong to a society, they belong to a group, they belong to an employer. And they're conditioned by mutual trust and support. So when we're teaching this stuff, what we do is we break that out and say, right, there's 5 or 6 things there, every group, take one of them, now let's start to unravel this. What does this really mean? How do we see it in practice? How would we notice it? How would we measure it? And what do we do with it? When it's an HR, we're talking about people and our people strategy. So in effect, that's how we work. And we will take 6 or 7 academic views. They are all different. And as Andy said, the nice thing is, because they're different, you can choose what you like, what fits your organisation, but you unpick them, you take them to the core, and then you take them back into, what might that mean for me at work as a practitioner? And then that's where we learn from each other, because people are doing different things with some of these academic foundation points. So that's an example of how we use academics. It's not heavy academic stuff. It's quite overarching, quite broadly explanatory. There's lots of additional reading and references if you want it, but it sets the concepts, and then you take those concepts and think, right, let's work around a table, let's think about how we can bring this to life in our organisation. It's energetic. That's how we teach employee engagement.
Perhaps let's just have a look and see what some research that we did said about it. As a potential employee, what sort of organisation will attract you, values, invests in you, involves you, ensures you're treated with respect, stretched and rewarded. All of that good stuff, and you had a lot of those ideas there. How do we know what people want in the workplace? There's a lot of conventional wisdom and assumptions, but an idea that we came up with is, why don't we ask them? And so what we did was, I wanted 100, but in fact I was only able to get 98 new college hires. So these were 98 people, straight from university. They'd been in the organisation for around about a month, 5 to 6 weeks. And the question that I asked them was, what do you want from your leaders? Tell us how we can best engage with you. So, very simple. You're new in the organisation, tell us what you want your leaders to be or to do. And I asked an artist, because I can't draw, just to turn that into a diagram. And if you can't see it from the back, don't worry, just talk it through. What do you want from your leaders? How do you want your leaders to be engaging? We'd like them to have approachable personalities. Surely all chief executives have got approachable personalities, haven't they? Perhaps not. But there is something in that. We want our leaders to be approachable. We want them to be open, engaging. We want them to be the sort of people we want to be led by. And I say to leaders when we're doing leadership training, do you look like a leader? And I don't mean do you have a tie or a smart suit or anything like that. What I mean is, do you look engaged and energetic, or do you look like you drank too much the night before? Even if you have, you've always got to look alert and engaging. We want our leaders to spend time with us, engage with us face to face is a key thing there. Give us direction, let us know the strategy. Be credible, be personally accountable. If you tell me you're going to do something for me, do it. Good communication, you have loads on communication there. Be clear on your expectations. Be transparent, exactly what some of you said there. Why are you making that decision? There was a very, very strong message for us which said, don't just make your decision, tell us why you made that decision so we can learn from you. And certainly in our old employer, the culture was question everyone and everything. It'd be a questioning culture. In some organisations, someone very junior going to the chief executive and saying, by the way, why did you do that? Might not be that well received. But I think the message is clear. When we make decisions, let's explain why we did them. Trust me enough to leave me alone. That was interesting. I guess we all understand the message there. Where are the women? I thought that was an interesting observation because it was a group that was probably 3/4 male, 1/4 female. Attracting women into the IT business, not always easy. Be a reliable partner in stormy times, challenge us, let us challenge back. Tell us how you made it to the top. How did you come to be in that leadership position? Have fun. In Capgemini, where we used to work, one of our stated corporate values was fun. And some clients used to sort of raise an eyebrow at that and say, do we want to work with a company that says it exists to have fun? Absolutely, I think that's one of its values. Doesn't mean to say we're not serious about our job. Clear decisions, be a personal mentor, give us feedback. How am I doing? So I've jumped to that because there were a lot of things that were in there that were very, very similar to some of the post-its that you had. Do you just want to say a word or two about the bottom line before we wind up?
One of the things that we'll do, if you run this programme, the way that we're talking is pretty much how it is. So we'll spend time on an academic, we'll then unravel the academic, we'll get into activity, like post-it notes, brainstorming, and then we'll start to build around experience. So what's that teach? What do we do with that then? How do we make that work? And then we'll share best practice, we'll share ideas and new thinking. That's how it works. But there's also a very big body of evidence now. It's actually come from HR practitioners. And we use some body of evidence which has come from a government-sponsored piece of research called Engagement for Success, which is a mix between an academic and a trade union worker. So people coming from a very different place in their psychological profile, what they think about work, and then we start to pull out, actually, what is this telling us? If you think about Andy's slide a minute ago, it didn't have on there pay. It didn't have any financial reward. What do I want from my leaders? I've been in the organisation for 5 weeks, and I'm not talking about money. These are all the other things that I'm looking for. So we start to pull out, well, what's the body of evidence then that says, actually, there are a range of things that we know employees look for, because we as practitioners actually have a very valid point of view. So we talk about the practitioner view, the academic view, and we look at the consultant view, because they all have a valid perspective, but what we build is confidence in the practitioner view. In employee engagement, unlike other modules, but particularly in employee engagement, There's no right answer. There is an appropriate set of tools and techniques and levers you can use according to your business issues, your business problems. And our job is to give you as much thinking that you can take and add to your toolbox to take back to your employer. So we don't spend time saying, well, the practitioner view is the end result. Some of the work that we'll do is actually the practitioner view as a starting point. Like the academic work could be the starting point, or the consultant's view could be the starting point. There's a lot of very good research now from a practitioner perspective, and the CIPD also a very good body of evidence-based work that we can use in the teaching aids and get debate about. So we try and keep it practical, we try and make it fun, we look at things that you can actively do, but we make it grounded in research so that you've got a very strong academic base. So when you're discussing these matters, you can do it from a place of certainty. That's what we aim to do in this module. By being energetic, fun, lively, active.
There's a few things that we would like you to do. That picture is of my group last year preparing posters. And we run a poster competition at the end of the module in December. And the challenge for the students is to prepare a poster to persuade the HR director and the board of the benefits of organisational learning. So that's their task, a poster to convince the benefits of organisational learning. Just a few things in summary. We've told you that we'll look at these topics from a variety of directions. With some of them, we'll look at them from other directions as well. What's the employee's view upwards? What's the executive's view downwards? Let's look at all the topics, and hugely wide and varied right across the field of HR. Non-traditional methods of learning, we've given you a taste. We will do lots of that sort of thing, and the room will be covered in paper, and it'll be active. We're serious about learning, but we try to make it fun as well, because we think that's how you will learn better. And we hope that's the result. That was the graduation ceremony this year of our successful HR cohort. So we hope that's where it will end up, if and when you join us. And that's all we have to say. I hope you found that interesting. Any questions that you have for us, feel free. Any questions about the programme, Natalia is there for the ones that we can't cope with.